Yo guys, and welcome to my new video. Today I will be ranking down the 5 Hunger Games movies. Alright, I can see you thinking, Sven, why would you rank down the Hunger Games movies on this beautiful day in September? Well, there's a good reason for that. I have never really talked about anything with the Hunger Games on this channel. I haven't even reviewed the Battle of Songbirds and Snakes because that one released during my break, so I haven't even talked about that one. And I felt like this movie deserves, or this franchise deserves some moments to shine, especially with the newest one coming up next year with the release of Sunrise of the Reaping in November of 2026. And the biggest reason for the ranking is that the movie theater near me just randomly decided to make a marathon out of these 5 films, and I went to the marathon, so I watched them today, and I felt like this is the perfect opportunity to rank them down for you. So if you're a big fan of the Hunger Games franchise, or you are not, and you just want to hear my opinions on these films in case I might hate some of them as well, then you are in the right place, in the right time, because today I will be ranking down all 5 films, the 4 Katniss Everdeen films and the one about Coriolanus Snow. I will be ranking them down, and I will tell you all about my opinion on them. Let's get straight into this 5 movie ranking. And at number 5, I have decided to place The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. I have always thought of this movie to be boring, to be quite bland, and watching it now on a movie theater screen, I have to say that watching it after Catching Fire, this movie remains boring and bland. I wasn't really paying attention to this franchise when I watched it as a kid. It also has been 10 years since I watched the Katniss Everdeen movies. But I always remembered that I just did not really like this movie. And when I watched it today in a movie theater, I have to say that I was quite bored with most of what I saw. Even though there are some great aspects in it, I do feel like the propaganda thing, the propo thing, just takes up way too much time. And I do really feel like they could have shortened it down quite a bit to make not a 2-parter movie, but maybe a very big 3-hour-long Mockingjay film. I think that would have benefited both of these films because this one had all of the boring parts. I still have to say that the hanging tree sequence is among my favorite scenes of the entire franchise. It's an incredible scene. I get goosebumps every time I see it. But that scene alone and the attack on the dam that happens afterwards is also really fucking great. And the ending is interesting enough with the saving of Peeta. It's really tenseful. But everything else in this movie just feels boring, and I didn't really like it, and this movie ended up being quite a disappointment, especially after Catching Fire. And at number 4, I have the newest one of the franchise, The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. When I originally watched this one in movie theaters last year, I did think it was a pretty good movie. It had some pretty damn great elements in it, but it's also deeply flawed in its story. And the thing that I really love about this film is the entire first act with leading up to the games. I thought having the mentor thing front and center was a really interesting choice and was a really interesting take on the Hunger Games, especially if you go into the Hunger Games, the second act of this movie, where you can see both sides of this. Like the mentor thing is front and center, and then you have the Hunger Games happening as well, which was also really tense and was interesting enough to see because, of course, it happened 65 years before we have seen everything from Katniss Everdeen. So that was really interesting and really well made, and you can definitely see that this movie tried a lot with that, put a lot of money in that, and they really succeeded in that. And when that was done, they were like, we did it. Fuck, we have half a book left. God damn it, how are we going to fix this? And that is exactly what you can see with this movie, because the entire third act, the entire last hour of this film, where they have to put the entire corruption and everything from Coriolanus Snow going to District 12 and being a upkeep peacekeeper and having that relationship with Lucy Greybeard and having him come back and having him become the pawn of Panem to make sure that he gets to become the bad guy as we obviously know he is. They did not have time for that left. And you can see that because in the last hour everything is so incredibly rushed. They decided to focus on the wrong things, and the actual downfall of Coriolanus Snow only really happens in the last 5 to 10 minutes of the movie. Apart from that, you can really not see anything about it, but that is supposed to be one of the most important parts about it if you're talking about a prequel, right? You're talking about how Coriolanus Snow became the way that he is. But you kind of forgot about that in the film, and then we're like, okay, shit, we have to do this in the last 5 minutes. Making sure that this movie feels convoluted as hell, making sure that even though the first half is great, that second half that you still have to go through if you are watching this film feels like a sore. And the way this movie theater that I went to did it, they first played the Katniss Everdeen storyline, and afterwards they played this one. And I said from before the franchise even started, before the marathon started, you should play this one first and then have Katniss Everdeen's story. They did not do that, making sure, together with all of what I'm just saying, that you had to sit through that last hour before you could go home. And I was, at multiple moments, I was like, I want to go home, man. So this movie is just pretty boring. It's still very good because of the Hunger Games parts, which was really great. It was just that the rest of the movie did not really do this one any justice. And in third place, I have decided to place The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. I really feel like this movie suffers from the same problems as the first part of this two-parter movie did. On the other hand, this one has some really great sequences happening in it because it's the ending of the story that make it all the much better than that first movie. It still is deeply flawed, and I still think that a movie is quite boring for most of it. From the moment you enter the city with the pots, it starts to get really interesting and it starts to get really good up until the end. And I still don't know why, but from the moment where Coriolanus Snow is about to get executed, the movie kind of loses me again. I can't explain why. It just continuously does to do so. And maybe it's because I miss Primrose so much, because I love her character. And I have no idea, I can't explain it. It's just that the ending of this movie doesn't really satisfy me, and the first hour also is quite flawed in my opinion. It's quite boring, but everything else that happens in between is damn interesting. I just miss the magic that these first two movies of the Hunger Games have. I missed that spark in this franchise starting from Mockingjay Part 1. It still suffered from the same fates in the Mockingjay Part 2, even though this one had some really well-made scenes and some really well-made sequences and some really tenseful scenes, especially with the oil and everything else that happened in this movie from the second half. That is all great. It's just that the build-up towards that is still way too long. And in second place, we have the one and only, the original, The Hunger Games. I am a bigger fan of this movie than I originally expected to be, because I expected to like this movie but not love this film. And I do have to say that that is still my opinion on this one. I like it. I like it a lot, actually. But it's not a great movie in my opinion. It's not something that is going to be a personal favorite of mine that I can just watch on repeat. I do not have the vibe of this franchise. The franchise is not in my heart. I just enjoy some of these movies a lot. And I feel like this one captures that magic from the Hunger Games really well. From the moment the Hunger Games starts, I just think, even though it's very important to have it in the movie, I do feel like the build-up towards the Hunger Games is a bit too long, even though it's a lot that they have to tell you, and it's important that they tell you that stuff. It could have been trimmed down a bit in that first half to make sure that the flow of the second half was better. And I deeply love everything in the Hunger Games, and I also deeply enjoy everything from the districts that you see in the first half of the movie. I did think that all of these things took a little bit too much time to tell their story, making sure that I don't love it as much as I would hope to do, which is my biggest problem from this film. It's just pacing issues. I kind of like everything else with it. Haymitch is awesome, by the way. I love Haymitch. Haymitch can pin me down with his bare foot any day. And in number one, I have decided to put The Hunger Games Catching Fire. This one was someone I was really worried about, because I really did not remember anything about this movie when I started watching this marathon. I knew some aspects of Mockingjay, I knew some aspects of the original, like I knew that Rue would still die, and I knew that Finnick wouldn't make it. The only real thing I knew about this one was the fate of Max. That's the only thing I remembered from this entire film. So I was really scared going into it that maybe I would again think this was very forgettable, but that made sure that I just loved this movie incredibly much. I do think it's the best one of the franchise by miles. I do think this is a pretty damn fucking great movie. The Hunger Games are better. Everything else in the districts is better because you now have already everything. You have built up everything already, so you can just focus on the rebellion starting and everything else, which was really interesting. And from the moment the Hunger Games itself starts, the movie flies by incredibly fast, making sure that in the end, when I thought like, okay, we are going towards the ending of the film, the movie just ended. And that was incredible because I felt like I was watching it for only 1.5 hours, but I was 2.5 hours in. It was really awesome, really great. And I deeply, deeply love the story of Catching Fire. I do love what they did with the story, how they left Katniss in the dust basically, and the audience as well, to make sure that we are as surprised as she is in the end of the film when you get into Mockingjay Part 1. I do feel like Catching Fire is an incredible film and is by far the best of the franchise, and I deeply, deeply love this one. And that's my ranking of the entire Hunger Games franchise. I am very excited to watch Sunrise of the Reaping next year because I am a big, big, big fan of Hamish Abernathy. I haven't read the book, by the way, and I don't think I will. I think I will watch or wait until the movie comes out, and after the movie I will try to read the book. I don't know why, but I feel like that is going to be the best thing for me to do, to get this movie in the best way possible. I haven't read any of the Hunger Games books, by the way, or definitely planning to do so because I am interested enough to watch or to read those books. So yeah, what did you think of this ranking? Please let me know your ranking for these movies in the comments down below as well, because I am really excited to hear your opinion on this franchise. Alright, with that being said, I want to thank you for watching and I would like to see you in the next video. Thank you, and bye bye.